Joining us in our D11sports.com studio this afternoon is Fred Harris, Liberty Athletic Director, also the Vice President of the East Penn Conference. And Fred, I know you've been in meetings really over the last few weeks, but today in particular, an 18-0 vote to kind of tier everything and move fall sports, especially the contact sports, down the road a little bit. Talk about what happened today in your meeting.
Well, today was pretty much the vote that solidified a plan that's been in the works for the last few weeks, Al. And that plan, driven by superintendents and principals, is to allow the opportunity for our schools to open, knowing that athletics is a layer and an integral part of the educational process. But education ultimately is why we're here. And the goal here was to get our schools open safely and give folks an opportunity to see how that goes, and ultimately, open schools safely, and then add the layer of contact sports on once we tackle the opening of our schools.
Is one reason for that, obviously, when you get to the contact sports, you get everyone in school and you kind of get a flow to see what's going to happen here, before you get into that contact routine. So, as a school district and as the East Penn Conference, you kind of, look at the schools and how everything's working out before, you get into hitting and soccer and all those sports.
Yeah, I think, given the so many unknowns about this virus and about, how it's transmitted and so on and so forth, what we're watching in sports around us is that even with the money and all of the pieces in place to help protect athletes, people are still getting COVID. So, the goal was to get our schools open without having our teams potentially be problematic in allowing us to open. We didn't want to have any outbreaks on our contact sports teams prior to the opening of schools. I think that's one of the things that drove this decision.
So tennis and golf will go as normal. Cross country will go as normal. Is that correct?
That is correct. Those sports by nature are somewhat socially distant sports. They're non-contact. The USTA has done a great job of putting out some guidelines, best practices to be able to safely play tennis. If you look at the recommendations of the National Federation out there, they've put sports in different categories, low risk, medium risk, and high risk. And, golf, tennis, and cross country are primarily low risk sports. It's interesting. Some states debate on cross country, whether it's low risk or medium risk. But there are a lot of mitigation strategies you can put in place in cross country that could really help lower the risk of COVID spread. So, for example, some of the things that we're doing is we're playing in county only, and our goal is to put schedules together, which we're going to begin working on immediately, to play an in county only schedule and play dual meets. So in the past in the EPC, we had cross country would run 4 teams at a time. We'd have these quad meets, tons of kids, tents are up, they were great. But unfortunately, that's not the way we can do business this fall. Same in golf. We're taking those tri meets and those quad meets. They're going to be dual matches, less kids, spread out, etc. So our hope is to create an entire plan that helps mitigate the potential spread of this virus.
And where does volleyball fit in all this right now? Because volleyball's indoors. Is that still one of those that are like a toss-up and wait until the governor makes one decision on if it moves the indoor to more than 25 people inside?
Well, it's kind of a rhetorical question because I think you know the answer, Al. But it's a toss-up because we need that little bit of relief, and whether it's the refs and the coaches don't count, or something like that. Because if I'm Mike Krause or Scotty Trumbauer or any of those great volleyball coaches that we know out there, and I'm trying to count, I'm saying, wait a minute, I need 10 to play it. The other team needs 10 to play it, and I need 2 refs. All right, that leaves 3. So maybe it's one. I don't know how that's all supposed to work out. Still have line judges and all that. So volleyball needs some clarification. That's why they're in the delay mode. They're certainly not a contact sport per se, but it is an issue right now with that 25 and under mandate on how we're going to move forward and play volleyball safely.
All right, so that leaves boys and girls soccer and field hockey before we get to football. Those sports are one of the 2 of the 3 sports that are going to be pushed back and delayed.
Yeah, so Their start dates are planned for September 25th, frankly, so that we can get a schedule in that gives them the minimum amount of contests so they can qualify for postseason should schools choose to go into the postseason. There's not going to be any league playoffs this year. We're going to be playing by division, and we will crown division champions, or division, whatever division you end up being in, we'll crown those division champions. But in terms of playoffs this year, the EPC will not be holding playoffs per se. But we want to make sure that we give each sport the opportunity to get their minimum amount of contests in, so that should they choose to go on the postseason, they can.
Would you have your back fixed by a mechanic? Don't take a risk with your rehabilitation. Trust physical therapy at St. Luke's.
All right, Fred, let's talk about football a little bit. And obviously everyone's, gearing up for football and seeing, where football stands and, where it goes. You guys decided to push it back to October the 2nd. And on top of that, you have decided on 5 games. How did the 5 games come about? And could that be technically extended a little bit, or depending on what happens, or are you guys stuck on 5 and that date?
Well, as we all figured out during this pandemic, things change by the minute and by the day and by the week. So, our schedule that we're currently releasing as part of the EPC schedule is a 5-game schedule that's in county. It really makes in my opinion, some exciting opportunities for in-county contests. I'm selfishly talking about Northampton County a little bit, and Monroe County, to crown a county champion. We haven't done that in a long time. So there's a little bit of excitement piece there. 5 games gives us a chance to open our schools and get 2 weeks of school done in the books, and then start the 3-week progression to get to October 2nd for football, which is so critical. It's part of the PIAA rules. We got to put helmets on kids sooner or later. We got to put shoulder pads on them sooner or later, and they're going to have contact sooner or later. So we need to make sure that between now and September 14th, that's something that we can pull off safely.
As you look at football and seeing how you have them in counties, I assume, as you're saying, the schedules, when do we expect the schedules to come out? Within the rest of the week or later than that?
Our goal is to have schedules vetted and ready to go. Our principals have to approve them by next Friday. So you'll have them before we start. By August 14th is our goal.
Okay. So the divisions right now by county: Allen, Central Catholic, Deerhoff, Emmaus, Parkland, and Whitehall. Monroe is East Stroudsburg North and South, Pleasant Valley, Pocono Mountain East and West, and Stroudsburg. And Northampton County is Bethlehem Catholic, Easton, Freedom, Liberty, Nazareth, and Northampton. My question, one of the questions is, if a school decides, or if a school can't go, I know the governor is on Wednesday is going to rule if you're virtual, a possibility of moving that. A team like William Allen, could be affected. How would that work into your scheduling, or are you waiting for tomorrow to see what the governor says, and you guys will have a better understanding of that moving forward?
Well, I think the first part of your answer is yes. The second part of your question, I'll say yes. Certainly, we will adapt to things that come down from the state as they come, whether they come from Governor Wolf's office, they come from PDE, or if they come from the PIAA. We will make those adaptations as we must, given the direction that comes down. Certainly, we've talked a little bit about what happens if, per se, the Allentown School District can't go. You don't know this, but I will share this with you on the record today. In our meeting, the Allentown School District did say, while they support this in theory, they are still not committed to participating this fall. So, they have some decisions to make in the Allentown School District. Certainly that would impact how we would schedule the football and the rest of the sports. But we do have a contingency plan that we have discussed. We certainly haven't voted on it. And basically what that would be is to take a school that might be part in Northampton and part in Lehigh County, which there's one of them, and move them to the Lehigh County division, and then play a crossover game at the end, particularly in football. So that could be a potential solution if we have to go there.
And the Allentown School District is both Allen and Deerhoff, correct? They would both be affected?
Right.
Okay. And looking at your schedule, you also changed with cross country 5 meets in county. Again, everything's in county. field hockey 10, football 5, golf 10, soccer 10 for both boys and girls, tennis 10, and volleyball 11 all together. Looking at football, and I don't know how you have an answer here. You get to a Wednesday and someone tests positive for COVID or just not feeling well, doesn't test positive, doesn't feel well. Now that person obviously has to get a test. How do you, or is it individual school districts and deciding on, okay, Friday comes around, that student and other students can't participate until that test result is in. Would that be correct?
Well, Al, I don't have the definitive answer for that question, but I would lean heavily on our partners at St. Luke's, who provide our sports medicine services in the Bethlehem School District and many of our schools throughout the conference. There's great infectious disease doctors there, and certainly they have protocols and procedures in place that would advise us on whether or not it's safe to play. So we would lean heavily on our partners' advice. We also have a Department of Health in Bethlehem and in Allentown. We would lean on their advice, and we'd lean on the advice of our director of nursing and medical services in our school district. It's not going to be a decision that Chris Harris makes on a Wednesday, I can tell you that. It'll be a decision that's made in conjunction with professionals who understand the health and wellness of everyone.
St. Luke's Pediatrics delivers the care you expect for your child, now and for their future. Choose a St. Luke's pediatrician today.
Is this exciting news for the East Penn Conference athletic directors, for the players, for the families? That we are moving forward after losing this spring. Giving a chance for these athletes to go. And I've always been saying, people realize that student athlete is such a huge part of adaptation and what happens in the world, because you're juggling this and that, and you're learning, and it is education, learning that way. How important is this for the athletic directors to push forward and have these games, some of these games be played?
Well, to say it's exciting is I would say no. I don't think it's an exciting thing ever to have to make difficult decisions that impact our kids, but it's necessary. And someone said, and I read this yesterday, part of being a leader is making the right decision, even if it's not popular. And I read another quote that said, you'll never know if you did too much, but you will definitely know if you didn't do enough. So in both of those, if you take both of those quotes, our job as leaders, superintendents, principals, athletic directors, is to make sometimes difficult decisions in what is in the best interest of the public. And that decision was directly put on our shoulders, and we made the decision that we felt was the safest and most prudent decision in the climate that we're in. I would be remiss if I thought that there isn't a possibility that this could go one way or the other. We could be sitting here in 4 weeks or 5 weeks saying, well, look, that league was able to play and nothing happened. Or we could be sitting here in 5 weeks saying, holy cow, you guys made a great decision. At the end of the day, we took all the data we had, all the information that we had available, and the climate in the room with all our superintendents, and we made a decision in what we felt was in the best interest of our student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, etc. It's not a win. This is not a winning decision, but it's the right decision. And 18-0, I think, solidifies that it's the right decision.
18-0, the East Penn Conference vote to move on and postpone or push back the start of contact sports, but sports are on the way, and hopefully this COVID-19 kind of diminishes a little bit and moves out of our way, kind of like the storms that we have. But this has been a tremendous what we have seen, since March 12th. It's been unbelievable, where no one projected this much to see where we're at. And I think you and I, we talk frequently, and I talk with other athletic directors, and you guys, and hats off, and I'll say this to you, and you can share it with your ADs, not only in the East Penn Conference, but the Schuylkill League, Colonial League. You guys do a tremendous job. And for you guys to understand what all the fans are always saying, well, do this, do that. You guys have to do what's right for the conference, right for your students, and to keep everyone as healthy as possible in your decisions that you make. They're hard decisions, but you're making them. And we appreciate everything that you do to promote that student athlete.
Yeah, I guess, at the end of the day, this is going to be tried in a court of public opinion, and I guess that's the beauty of where we are and what kind of where we live. But we hope that people understand. And decisions are sometimes tough to make, but you have to make the right one.
Fred Harris, Liberty Athletic Director, Vice President of the East Penn Conference. Thanks a lot for taking some time with us here on D11sports.com.
Thanks, Al.